Welcome, everyone, to Real Talk Fantasy Baseball. I am Will Power, your host. With me is John Murrow, as always. What's up, John?
What's up, Will? How we doing?
I am great, actually. I just got home from my son's 8U baseball game, and we destroyed the competition. We won 8-3. It was a little back and forth in the beginning, pitcher's duel, if you will. We were down 3-2 going into the sixth, and ended up scoring 6 runs in the sixth. So it was a great feeling, man.
Hell yeah, man! Nothing better than a win, and 6 runs in the last inning can't beat that, man.
Yeah. So new name for our fantasy pod. We are calling this the Fantasy War Room. So what do you think about that name, John?
The War Room, man. Give me anything that's stronger than war. You kind of can't. So I feel like it's a very, very strong name for this podcast, and we're gonna back it up. We're gonna back
Yeah,
it
it's
up with
kind
some
of
strong stats, some strong content, and we're pumped.
it's kind of a play on words because you got war like battle, and then you also have war like baseball war, the wins above replacement. So I think it feels strong. I think it feels like this podcast should. And going right into some battles. Unfortunately, we have a lot of injuries to go through today. And we also have some 2025 breakouts and busts that John and I came up with. So starting off with our injuries. Let's see. Fernando Tatis Jr., the Padres manager, Mike Shildt, told reporters that he's optimistic. Fernando Tatis tweaked his shoulder during Tuesday's contest. The manager told reporters that he's optimistic that Tatis will be ready to play Friday's series against the Rockies. Ketel Marte will miss significant time. Arizona manager Toy Lavulo said Tuesday that Marte will miss a series of weeks with a left hamstring strain. There's no timeline, but it's classified as a grade 1 strain. Lavulo told reporters that we got to let him heal, let him recover, and once we get to that point, we'll start to initiate some baseball activities. And this is one of the reasons why I've kind of avoided Ketel Marte in the past in drafts. You know, he was amazing last year. He was in MVP talks. You know, he's always been a great baseball player, but for a long time, we've just seen a limited amount of time on the field. And that's kind of always been the problem with Ketel Marte, you know, and MVP caliber player. But I don't know. What are you thinking about this, man? Do you think Ketel Marte might have another season derailed by injuries?
I mean, did they give a true timeline on how long he's going to be out, or not really?
They just said weeks.
Yeah. I mean, it's April. I mean, weeks could be 2 weeks, and it's still April at the end of that. So I don't, derailed is strong. Let's see, what comes of it. If he's still out by the end of May, it's a different story. And then that tells me it's a more serious injury, and that probably will affect his, entire first half, which affects his entire second half and season. So I don't know. I want to see what weeks is. That's not months. That's not the first half. That's not July. So I'm not going to say it's derailing anything yet.
So it looks like last season he played 136 games. Season before he played 150. Season before that he played 137. And in 2021 he only played 90. And even in the shortened 2020 season, he only played 45 of the 60 games. So it seems like he's always missing at least a couple injuries or a couple weeks with injury. So I guess a couple weeks not that bad. So if you're missing Ketel Marte, hopefully you already found a second baseman that is not universally owned, which we will go over some second basemen later on in the show. And the Padres.
We're going to Paris, aren't we, Will? Aren't we going are we going, maybe a little spoiler alert for some summer travels?
Yeah, I'd love to go to Paris. I've actually talked about going to Paris before. And unfortunately, some people have been to Paris before I have. And I wasn't one of the lucky ones. But next injury, we have the Padres. They placed Jackson Merrill, outfielder, on the 10-day injured list with a right hamstring strain. Clearly, the Padres don't want to take any chances with Merrill's longtime health, especially at this early stage of the season. The Padres don't seem to be too worried about it. They're being more overcautious than anything. Freddie Freeman, Dodgers manager Dave Roberts, told reporters that the team is hopeful for Freddie Freeman to return Friday against the Cubs. he was placed on the injured list with his right ankle sprain. So did you hear about what happened to Freddie Freeman? How he injured this again?
Is it the same ankle?
Same ankle. Same
No,
same ankle that he had surgically repaired in the offseason.
what do you do?
He fell and slipped in the shower. So he was having his shower worked on at his house, and he had like one of those like portable ones, I guess, put into his house, and it had like a big um curb, and he tried to step over the curb, misplaced his step, and injured the ankle that he had surgically repaired. So kind
You
of
saying?
reminds me of like when who's the catcher? Salvador Perez, when he was getting ready to go on a trip and he was grabbing some luggage and he tripped over his luggage and ended up breaking his wrist a couple
Mhm.
years ago. Us old guys, man, we can't be like doing stuff like that anymore.
Yeah, remember when Sammy Sosa sneezed and threw out his back in like '99?
Bro, I know what that feels like. I got one of those like huge sneezes, I got to be careful I don't break a rib when I sneeze. I
Going
definitely
back to
clear the
that,
room though.
going back to that, I mean, you seem to know a lot, maybe too much about Freddie Freeman's shower. Do you want to go on about that a little bit more? Or?
No comment. This is a
Hmm,
kid safe zone. So yeah, no comment on that.
understood.
All right.
Understood.
O'Neil Cruz took a pitch off his finger in the seventh inning in Tuesday's contest, and he was pinch hit for when his spot came back in the batting order when they came around again in the ninth. Manager Derek Shelton said after Wednesday's game against St. Louis that Cruz wasn't in the lineup due to finger soreness. He'll look to return to the starting nine on Friday against a series opener in Cincinnati. Pablo Lopez was diagnosed with a right hamstring strain Wednesday. There's a good chance that Lopez will be moving up to the 15-day injured list because of his injury. There's no official move that has been made yet, but it kind of seems like that's the general thought that he will be put on the injured list, and they are hoping that it will be a minimum length stay, just the 15 days. Rangers placed Wyatt Langford on the 10-day injured list with an oblique strain. Realistic return date is end of April, so only a couple more weeks. Um, Royce Lewis, surprise, surprise, is still weeks away from a rehab assignment. Lewis
Years.
was years. I really hope not, man. This guy just needs to stay healthy. He's one of those
Okay.
guys that's like,
Never healthy.
if he was healthy though, imagine the type of player that you would be getting, you know?
Same.
He's a really good hitter, dude. He's got some pop, good batting average. But he was given the green light to start a running progression this past Saturday. He's not close to ramping up his baseball activity or seeing live action yet, but he is going in the right direction. Colton Cowser is out for 6+ weeks. Orioles manager Brandon Hyde said that he expects Cowser to probably be out 6 to 8 weeks minimum after the outfielder was placed on the 10-day injured list this past Monday due to a fractured left thumb. It is not known if he is going to have surgery or not. That's kind of a big hit for the Orioles, man. Like the Orioles, we've been talking about this team for years now, that Orioles are going to be the best team in American League. They have all this young talent, these young studs. They ended up getting Corbin Burns last year, and everyone thought that he was going to be like the ace, and he was great, but they just didn't build around anything. They don't really seem to want to spend money, and I think that that's one of the biggest problems with the Orioles. It's like you have all that talent that you're not spending money on. Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rushman, Jackson Holiday, Colton Cowser, the list goes on and on with all these like super young guys, and you don't want to spend money on pitching. Like you got to spend money on pitching. Grayson Rodriguez is on the injured list, and he's not like an ace. He's a solid number 2 or 3 in that rotation. So I would love to see the Orioles just spend some money and go after that American League East title.
Yeah. The Orioles are actually, I if we don't have to go too deep on this, but I think the Orioles are starting to feel a little bit like Toronto. Kevin Biggio, Bo Bichette, and Vladdy, and it just didn't turn into anything. Now it's very early on the Orioles. I'm not going to go there just yet. He's not on my list as a bust, but I'm a little disappointed in Jackson Holiday. Colton Cowser, injuries, and he started off so hot last year and just kind of fell off a cliff. Jordan Westberg's been a bright spot for them, but look at guys like Grayson Rodriguez. Look at guys, they traded Connor Norby. Heston Kiersat hasn't turned into what he was supposed to be. So Adley Rushman's a stud. Cool. That's fine. Gunner, stud, of course. But when you have these prospects and these guys that are supposed to fill in these missing pieces and they don't, you have to spend money. And right now they're not. And that's poor ownership, man.
Yeah, I agree. Look at all these free agent starting pitchers that ended up going to other teams. They had such an opportunity to keep. Um, I just messed
I
up
don't
his name
under,
again.
I
Get
don't understand how you trade for a Corbin Burns and don't re-sign him.
there you go. Right. Yeah,
Seriously.
that's
What do
exactly
you
what I'm talking about. Or even Blake Snell. Did they even offer Blake Snell anything? Did they go after Yamamoto? Did they go after Roki Sasaki? Regardless of if the Dodgers were going to get them or not, did you even try? That's like the biggest question, I think. And I think a lot of Baltimore fans would kind of agree that with what you just said, you have all this young talent that you're not spending money on. Spend money on starting pitching. You have one of the greatest closers in the game who wasn't able to pitch at all last season, but he's back now.
Mhm.
Right now is the perfect opportunity to sign some guys and go out and win the American League East title and potentially make it to the World Series. Look at the Tigers last year, man. No one expected the Tigers to make it to the playoffs last season, let alone the ALCS. We could see the Orioles do the exact same thing. Do some trades. That's really the only thing that they could do this season is make some trades, go after some starting pitching, maybe from
Yeah.
Seattle. Imagine if a couple of those Seattle pitchers, or at least one, Luis Castillo, pitching in Baltimore. I think
They
that
don't feel
would
like a
be
pitcher away though. They don't, and maybe that's why they didn't re-sign Burns. Maybe they feel they are further apart than they think. And I agree that the AL East is not up for the taking. It's one of, if not the most competitive divisions outside of the NL East. But the Orioles should be a juggernaut, really. I mean, if you resign Burns and filled in a couple other pieces here, you could have traded for a Kyle Tucker. You have more prospects than anything. If you re-sign Burns, add a Kyle Tucker into that mix, it's a different team coming into this year. They didn't, so here they are.
unfortunately. Yeah. Looks like Boston's doing pretty good though. Looks like
They're going
Boston
to be
might
there for a
actually take
while,
the
man. They're going to be
a lot
there for
of
a
a lot
long
of good
time.
young talent.
Yeah, one of them's going to be on our breakouts.
All right, moving on to Lane Thomas was hit by a pitch in Tuesday's contest. He was absent from the lineup for Wednesday's game against the White Sox. X-rays came back negative, so the Guardians are optimistic. He'll be back in the starting nine on Friday. Ivan Herrera, catcher for the Cardinals, said to miss at least 4 weeks. It was diagnosed with a bone bruise in his left knee. And this guy, so Wilson Contreras in previous years was supposed to be Yadier Molina's replacement. And he just kind of hasn't really panned out, dude. And we'll talk about him a little bit more later. But Ivan Herrera, I was really high on this guy, man. And I still kind of am. Unfortunately, he's going to miss about a month of time. That really sucks, especially, when catchers are really hard to come by.
Mm-hmm.
They get injured so easily. I could
He's only
see Ivan
24.
Herrera. Yeah, I could see Ivan Herrera being a top 10 catcher next season. If he comes back healthy, which it's just a bone bruise. So I don't think that really should hinder him too much. I know a bone bruise really hurts, especially when you're crouched down, and in that catcher position on that knee. So it is going to take him a little bit a little long to kind of like get back into playing condition, but I think the spot is his, man. Like there's no other competition taking the catcher spot away from him. So he should be able to get behind the backstop basically every day as long as his body can hold up.
Yeah, and like you said, a good catcher is hard to come by, especially one that's hitting over 300, 4 home runs already on the young season. So 4 weeks is 4 weeks, but hopefully he can come back and be just as, if not even more productive.
And another catcher, Reds catcher Tyler Stevenson, received good news after undergoing an MRI on Monday. He'll begin to be more aggressive in his recovery. Stevenson is continuing to fight through a left oblique injury, but seems to be moving in the right direction. There is not a clear timetable for his return, but he'll probably need at least a few more at bats in the minors before being activated from the 10-day injured list. Victor Robles, this is a huge hit, man, because Victor Robles, he was even talking about how he wanted to be like the league leader in stolen bases this year, even more than Ellie De La Cruz. But he's going to be out 12 weeks with a fracture. So I don't know if you saw the catch that he made
Yeah,
in right
oh my
field.
God. Saw it live. Eric and
Oh,
I
did
almost
you,
were like, oh, we were like, oh, you heard it.
bro?
I
It
thought
was so bad, man.
dude,
I
it
heard
was
about it earlier,
frightened.
and I watched the replay later, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's dislocated for sure.
Hmm.
It looks so bad.
He bent like a slinky.
Yeah, and his arm went so far back. They're saying that he will avoid surgery for now, but over the next 6 weeks while he's healing, they're going to check him out again, and eventually surgery might be an option. Hopefully not, because once he has surgery, he's going to be out for a long time. And now going on another catcher, Francisco Alvarez was sent on rehab assignment yesterday at Low A St. Lucie and went 1 for 3. He also completed 5 innings behind the plate in his first rehab contest and continues to make his way back from surgery to repair a hand fracture in his left hand. He'll need at least a week or two of additional rehab contests before he's ready to rejoin the Mets lineup, but he should return by the end of April, if not sooner. I've been holding on to this guy in 2 of my leagues, dude, and I don't have IL spots. He's just sitting there taking up a roster spot, but I don't want to drop him just for someone else to pick him up. So if you have Francisco Alvarez, do you think that you would stash him? Would you try real hard to stash him, or do you think that he would just have been a drop for you when we found out about the injury?
I mean, it depends on if you have another catcher, truthfully, and who that other, who's your placeholder right now for Francisco Alvarez?
I have Gabriel Moreno.
Yeah, I'd probably hold on to him if I were you. I mean, Gabriel Moreno's about as good, maybe doesn't produce the same power. So I think Alvarez has a higher ceiling. So it's worth stashing for that reason and, on a arguably a little bit better lineup, I guess. But I'd say they're similar enough. I wouldn't hold Alvarez for another month or so, but since he's already on assignment, coming back, let's call it within a week or so. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I agree. And you mentioned him earlier. Jordan Westberg is nursing an upper body injury. Orioles manager Brandon Hyde said that Westberg is being held out of the lineup on Wednesday, but is considered day to day and should avoid the injured list. Reds middle infielder Matt McLean has said that the has been put on the injured list after being held out of Cincinnati's lineup for the fourth straight game, dating back to last Thursday with a slight left hamstring strain. Doesn't sound like a serious concern, but he's going to need at least a couple of additional days off to put the issue to bed and ensure it doesn't get worse, and should be back by mid-April, hopefully. Gleyber Torres has been ramping up his hitting, and if he continues to progress on schedule, he might be ready for activation when first eligible on Friday. The second baseman has been sidelined since late March with the left oblique strain that initially cropped up towards the end of spring training, and it seems as though he might not need a rehab assignment before being activated, which I thought was really weird that they wouldn't send him on rehab assignment. Are they really like that desperate that they need Gleyber Torres back in their lineup? John, if you're a Gleyber Torres owner, are you starting him right away when he gets activated off the IL, knowing that he hasn't really seen any live pitching, whether it's minors or majors yet?
Preferably not. Again, kind of depends on what kind of depth you have. If you have a guy like a Jacob Wilson sitting there as your middle infield position, just throwing that name out there, like absolutely not. Uh, Gleyber Torres has been a nice piece for that offense so far, but he's so hit or miss. He strikes out a ton, and it's cold as hell in Detroit. I know you love temperatures, man. So that ball is not traveling in a hitter's ballpark. So I'd like to see him a little bit first get warmed up, if you will, as temperatures warm up a hair over the next couple days too. But again, it really depends on what kind of depth you have. If he's the best thing you got day one, he's going right back in that lineup.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, like if it was me, if Gleyber Torres got injured and he was out for a while, depending on what my second base situation is at the moment, I might even drop him or look to trade him away to someone that actually did have an IL spot. But I've never really been too big on Gleyber Torres. Like you said, he strikes out a lot, and I do not like guys in my lineup that strike out a lot, which is one of the reasons why I traded away Ellie De La Cruz a couple seasons ago.
Fool.
And then he went ahead and stole 70 bases last year. So yeah,
How you feeling?
terrible on my part. Well, considering that I got Zach Gallen in return for him, and I don't even have Zach Gallen on that team anymore because it is a keeper team, and I sold Ellie De La Cruz for Zach Gallen. Now I don't have either of them, but I do like my team. I like my team how it's kind of like coming into play now. So I'm not too worried about it, especially because it's a points league. I like Ellie De La Cruz much better in a categories league. And yeah.
I wouldn't
All right.
call
So
Ellie a breakout, but who would you call a breakout?
you want to move on to
Maybe
breakouts? I got a
that's
couple
a good idea,
more.
Will.
All right, go ahead and go with your first breakout. Yeah, go ahead and go with your first breakout.
Cool. Let's do it. Well, if I'm going to start with my very first one, I'm going to start with outfielder for the Boston Red Sox. That's Wilyer Abreu. So Wilyer, I feel like I'm a little bit late to this guy. My focus, honestly, was more on Roman Anthony and Christian Campbell. But I mean, Wilyer Abreu, young, what's he, 26 years old. He was uncertain to begin the season healthy, and since that, he has honestly been the bright spot for the Red Sox so far this year. He's looking not just like a star, but like a superstar. So he was sixth in the Rookie of the Year last year. He hasn't gotten a ton of attention, not as one of their top prospects like the Marcello Myers of the world, the Roman Anthony's, but he really had a really good first solid season in the big leagues last year. He hit 253, 15 homers, 58 RBI, and a 781 OPS. But this season, dude's on a different level. 46 plate appearances so far. He's at 378, 3 home runs, 12 RBI, 3 doubles, and a 1203 OPS. And his defense has been unbelievable. So there was talk that Roman Anthony could get called up if Wilyer was not producing or was injured or whatever that looks like. But that outfield for many years to come is going to be pretty unstoppable. And Wilyer Abreu is going to be a big part of that as you're watching in his breakout season in 2025.
Yeah, we saw flashes of greatness from Wilyer Abreu last season. The expected batting average didn't look too good, but hits the ball really hard, barrels up the ball a lot, has great bat speed. That's the new StatCast information that we have now. We can see how fast the bat is going through the zone. Did not have the greatest plate discipline in 2024, but looking forward at 2025, he is in 94th percentile when it comes to whiff percentage and 96th percentile in chase percentage and 97th percentile in walk percentage. So the dude's looking like a bona fide stud. 3 home runs already for a guy that's only 5'10". So what is that, like a 20 to 25 homer pace so far for this guy? He has a 1130 OPS. Like that's nothing short of amazing, man. And he does have the pedigree to back it up. In the minors, he was doing similar stuff. Let's see, in 2023 in AAA, he batted 274 with a 391 OBP. So again, great plate discipline. Had 59 walks to 74 strikeouts. And dude, in points leagues, I love guys with great plate discipline. They're going to get on base a lot, score a lot of runs. And in the lineup that he's in, he's going to be getting a lot of RBI opportunities as well. I really like Wilyer Abreu.
Yeah. Who you got for your first breakout prediction?
So my first breakout, we've kind of witnessed greatness already this season earlier on. Mackenzie Gore, he's had 3 starts so far, has a 2.65 ERA in 17 innings, 3 walks. That's a 4.5% walk rate, 25 strikeouts. That's a 37 and a third strikeout rate. XERA is at 370. So it's a little high, but we've seen pitchers in the past outperform their expected ERAs. So he's a former first round pick, number 6 overall prospect in 2021. Biggest flaws in Gore's game, I think, are the walks. In 2022, he had a 12% walk rate. In 2023, he had a 9.8% walk rate, and last year was at 8.9. But like I mentioned earlier, this year he's only at 4.5%. I know, small sample size. It's only been 3 starts so far, but I don't know. Maybe he's learned command. Maybe he's learned control. His fly ball percentage is up 5%. His career fly ball percentage is 26.8%. In 2025, it's at 31.6. But the pop-ups are increased also. It's up from 5.9% in his career up to 10.5% in 2025. So I'm loving the pop-ups. Those are automatic outs, basically. Ground ball percentage is down from 38.8% last year down to 28.9. So the ground balls are down 10%. I've noticed that he's been throwing a lot of more pitches up in the zone or even up out of the zone. So it seems like that's where a lot of the whiffs are coming from. And the whiffs are getting out of control this season. He has a 40% whiff rate on 4 different pitches. And with his slider and the changeup, that's those are both above 50% whiff percentage. So the upside's always been there with Gore. I think all of us have been kind of like waiting for this breakout to happen ever since he was with the Padres. And with all the whiffs that Gore is getting this year, I think that 2025 might actually be the year that we see a true breakout from this guy that was touted as a top prospect back in 2021.
Yeah, you wanted me to hop on the pod and talk about him against the Phillies. There was a 0% chance I was going to do that. Yeah, the expected 3.7 ERA is kind of surprising. I mean, he looked like Nolan Ryan in his prime against the Phillies, but I'm going to tell you that was because of shadows, so fluke game. He looks better this year. I don't think he's going to be getting Cy Young votes yet, but I think within the next couple years, maybe. I don't think he's far off, but I think he's still got to continue to sharpen that toolbox a little bit. I think when he gets into trouble, he seems to struggle to get out of trouble from what I was watching a little bit last year and this year. But he's still younger and he could easily, continue this pace and potentially get some of those Cy Young votes, but I don't think it's yet this year. I want to be a little more cautiously optimistic on Mackenzie Gore.
So you mentioned that he faced the Phillies already, but you didn't mention that he faced the Dodgers also, and he carved them up pretty nicely. 7 strikeouts in 6 innings. And you mentioned the shadows in Washington.
Dodgers coming off of they got the shit beat out of them in Philadelphia. So they were exhausted.
Hey, I wouldn't say that. We only lost by 1 run in game 3. Right.
Shit beat out of them. 2 out of 3 games. Shit beat out of them.
All right. Talk it up as much as you want right now, because come September and October, that's not going to happen no more.
Bring it.
All right, man. We already talked about going to Paris. So do you want to talk about your next breakout?
Well, since you brought it up, I'd love to, Will. In 51 at bats last year, my guy Kyren Paris. Kyren?
I think it's Kieran.
I don't know. Karen Paris? Kyren, my Guyren Paris. In 51 at bats last year, he hit 118 with 1 home run and 5 RBIs.
Terrible.
2025, though, Will? 2025 is a different story. The second round pick in 2019 has produced a 393 batting average, 5 home runs and 8 RBIs, and has sprinkled in 4 stolen bases for me in both of my teams. He's not been just one of the best stories for the Angels. He's been one of the best stories in baseball. Former second round pick in 2019. So he's not just a, complete fluke. It's not completely out of nowhere. This guy is starting to develop, as I heard on MLB Network this morning, a man body. He's 23. So with that said, that's where some of that power is coming from. 5 home runs and what I say, how many at bats? Like 40 something is unreal. 1485 OPS. That's legit. So I'm not going to tell you he's going to keep this pace up. He would be in the Hall of Fame if he did this all year after one season, but it's a cool story, man. Ride that wave until it burns out. Kind of reminds me. Let's see. Let's talk about, I guess, some of those lightning in a bottle guys, and let's see how long those guys can keep it up. But who was the guy on the Tigers a couple years ago? Outfielder. It'll hit me later.
Riley Green?
No, he's on
I
the
don't know.
Twins now. But
But
anyway, some of these guys
oh,
get hot for the month of April and then just completely fizzle out. I don't think he's that, but he's not going to stay this hot all season.
yeah, that's basically impossible to stay this hot. This is like Shohei Ohtani numbers right here, batting over 300 with some serious pop. Looking at 2024, he only had 4 home runs in 60 games. So I I get what you're saying. Like the guys on MLB Network are talking about he's getting his man body, but he's still not even hitting the ball on average 90 miles an hour yet. I think that right now, you kind of said it earlier, right? This hot streak. I think that's exactly what this is. I do like Kieran Paris. I don't really see him as like a huge breakout. I think that we're probably going to see him keep this up for a little while. But Statcast doesn't lie. The average exit velocity, he's 40th percentile. He's just barreling up the ball a lot lately. He's seeing the ball very well. And baseball is all about hot streaks and cold streaks. I think he's just on a hot streak right now, and he's seeing the ball very well. His expected batting average is 332, a little bit lower than his regular batting average, his actual batting average, which is still amazing. 332 batting average, an expected slug of 773. That's basically unheard of, 5 home runs and 4 stolen bases in only 34 plate appearances. I love what I'm seeing here. Do I really buy into the breakout? I don't think I do. He has really good batting run value and base running value. I think he's fine as like a middle infield option potentially going forward, but I wouldn't put all my eggs in one basket for Kieran Paris moving forward for rest of season.
So what are you gonna trade me for him?
You can keep him.
All right, we'll
All
see.
right.
Let me know when
All
you
right.
need a second baseman. He's not gonna be available then.
No, I think I'm okay on second base, but we'll see. We can revisit this in about a month after
Nope,
he cools
now.
off a little bit.
Nope, now.
You're definitely not getting Paul Skeens, so you can get off that train right there.
Hmm.
All right, going on to my next option, I have first baseman of the Yankees, Ben Rice. 2024, he played in 50 games, 7 home runs. That's a 30 homer pace at 25 years old, but that pairs with a 171 batting average. It was pretty bad. He actually came up early with the Yankees and ended up getting sent down to AAA. Played 30 games in AAA and hit 12 home runs and batted 294 with a 428 on base percentage. And in 129 games between the minors and the majors, he had 31 home runs, a total of 50 extra base hits. And so far in 2025, he has 5 extra base hits, including 2 home runs, a 323 batting average, 447 on base percentage, a 1,092 OPS. There's no way that Rice is going to keep up this pace, but with this type of power and batting average upside, I think Rice could end the season as a top 10 first baseman. And a first baseman for the Yankees, it's basically been a revolving door ever since Mark Teixeira's days were over. And, we've seen Luke Voigt, Anthony Rizzo, they signed Goldschmidt to a 1-year deal. But now the Yankees finally see that Ben Rice is ready to take over first base for the Yankees. I don't think they're going to be looking for any first basemen for a really long time. This guy is going to be the starting first baseman for the Yankees for the next 5-6 years now.
I mean, Sure, yes, for sure. But don't discount what Paul Goldschmidt's done. He's been nice.
Yeah, he's fine, but I
Like
think now,
350.
okay, if Ben Rice was doing last year what he's doing right now, they wouldn't have signed Goldschmidt. They would have
Batting
been like, "This is our
383.
first baseman." Don't downplay this. This dude's a freaking stud, man.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to disagree with you there. But I will not let you put disrespect on Paul Goldschmidt either.
No, definitely not. He's a former MVP, and he's always been great, but he's just kind of over the hill now. And I want to see what Ben Rice can do on a daily basis playing first base, and it's so crazy too because looking at this guy's StatCast numbers, they're out of control, but he was a 12th round pick back in 2021. Very surprising that this guy can do what he's doing now and show those power numbers, and he was drafted so late. But usually, I think Mike Trout was a late round pick also. Wasn't he like drafted like closer to like the 12th round also?
No, it was the end of the first round.
No, he definitely wasn't a first round pick.
Mike
I,
Trout,
I'm yeah.
anything, maybe second round.
I'm gonna look that up.
No, first round. He was definitely first round.
No way. All right, man. Go ahead and go on to your next breakout, and I will look up that stat.
25th overall. Eat shit. All right. Jung Hoo Lee is my other third breakout. I really did. I'm surprised by Jung Hoo Lee and just kind of speaking about disrespect. I will not, going back real quick to Paul Goldschmidt, though. You did say he's over the hill. 383 with a 941 OPS. All right. Jung Hoo Lee, back to him. This guy was a stud last year and all of a sudden went out with a shoulder injury, just couldn't get back on the field. That was that. Season's over. Jung Hoo Lee's trip to America became all right. We'll see him in 2025, and everyone just forgot he existed. Even Baseball Reference kind of forgot he existed. So I'm just looking at predictions they had for him. They projected him to hit 253 with 7 homers and 25 RBI on the season. I'm like, what? It just doesn't make sense. So I'm not here for the Jung Hoo Lee hate either. This guy is batting 333 so far. He's got 7 doubles and a 908 OPS. No homers yet, but 333, 7 homers. Cool. Sign me up, man. He's a great contact hitter. He's gonna sprinkle in some power there, but don't sleep on Jung Hoo Lee and the 333 batting average. It's legit.
I like Jung Hoo Lee. Doesn't strike out a lot, puts the ball in play a lot. So that is huge, especially in points leagues. You put the ball in play, you let the opposition make mistakes, you get on base. He's never going to be like that big time power hitter, especially playing in San Francisco most of his games. But I think San Francisco did it right in signing this guy. And like you mentioned, the injury kind of like made him a bust last year, but I do see potential for a breakout this season. I like that pick.
Thanks, Will.
All right, man. And my next breakout, and you've already kind of mentioned him earlier in the show. I'm talking about Jacob Wilson. Jacob Wilson. Heading into 2025, he was the number 31 overall prospect. His expected batting average this season, a 365. Huge batting average standout the last 2 years. In 2024, he batted 433. In 2023, he batted 333. Not a lot of power or speed, so I don't really see Wilson as a standout in categories leagues. But in points leagues, Jacob Wilson is the Luis Arias of shortstops. In 2024, he was derailed by a hamstring injury on the same day that he made his major league debut. But so far this year, Jacob Wilson picked up right where he left off before his injury. So Jacob Wilson, sign me up. I know you got him in our points league, right?
I love Jacob Wilson, man. He does not strike out. He's just hits the ball. And when you hit the ball and you are young and only getting stronger, you're going to add power. Everyone acts like this guy's like the weakest guy on earth. He's got 2 homers already. I mean, cool. And is he going to hit more than 10? Maybe, but I wouldn't bank on more than 15 or 20. So, Jacob Wilson, you're going to get a ton of contact. You're going to get almost non-existent strikeouts, really good eye, and an athletics lineup that hits the ball. And they just had their first game yesterday without a home run. So Jacob Wilson gets on base. He has guys behind him that are going to get him in. So he's going to score a lot of runs. He's going to hit the ball, steal a couple bags for you. And what more can you ask for?
Exactly. Love it. And the A's lineup actually looks a hell of a lot better than it did just a few years ago with guys like Lawrence Butler and Brunt Rooker. So moving forward, it looks like the A's are going to be making some moves too. After they make the move to Vegas, they're going to look for fighting for the top spot in the AL West. So look out, man. This guy is going to be a force. He's probably going to hit in the top of the order in the A's lineup. So he's going to be scoring a bunch of runs. I don't think he really has that speed either. I think I read that he was like 60th percentile in speed. So you're not really going to see a lot of stolen bases, but a lot of runs coming from Jacob Wilson. And in that lineup, that really good lineup, he'll probably be getting a lot of RBI opportunities as well. Now you want to go ahead and give your first bust prediction.
Sure. My first bust prediction is unfortunately a guy I had super high hopes for. So I'm going to call out a guy on my own team, and that's going to be Austin Riley, on my own fantasy team, that is, of course. So Austin Riley, he had such a bad year last year. So I thought I was getting him at a pretty good buy discount, if you will, as were a lot of people. So last year, really disappointing, 256 batting average, 19 home runs, and 56 RBI. I think we all kind of alluded that it was just a down year for the Braves. Acuna's out, Strider's out, and it's just not, they're just out. They're just not there this year. So a couple of years ago, 2023, Austin Riley, don't forget this guy just hit 281, 37 homers, 97 RBI. That's coming off of a 2022 season where he hit 273, 38 home runs, 93 RBIs. The year before that, 33 homers, 107. It's like he does it. He's consistently been in the 30s, high 30s with 100 RBI 3 years in a row. Is something wrong with Austin Riley at this point where coming off last season, you saw his batting average drop almost 30 points. Homers fell, RBIs fell, and now you're seeing him come into 2025, 48 plate appearances. He has a batting average of 200, 200, 5 RBI, 2 home run. It's not looking great for Austin Riley. It's not looking great for the Braves. They're 1-2-8. So Austin Riley has a huge play in that. He's right in the middle of their lineup and he has to perform. And unfortunately, a lot of the guys around him aren't either, fortunately for the Phillies.
So looking at Austin Riley's splits from last year, he was pretty slow to start off with also. And even the season before that, you mentioned how, last year was a down season for him. He batted 225 in April, 231 in May, and jumped up to 289 in June, 280 in July, and with a ton of home runs. He had 6 home runs in June, 5 in July, and 5 in August. And then moving back to 2023, kind of like the same thing in April, he only batted 258, and then he started heating up, 271 in May, 287 in June, 287 in July, 289 in August. So it seems like this guy is just kind of like a guy that
cold weather.
He hates cold weather. So we need to see the weather warm up a little bit before we start seeing Austin Riley kind of like come into his own. But also you can't forget that this guy had a right hand fracture in August of last year. And, a fracture, what is he, like 6 months later? I still think that maybe he's just not right yet. And he needs to, especially right now when it's cold, it's like those old injuries kind of creep up, especially, in the bones, in colder weather. So I think that once the weather starts warming up, I think we're going to see stud Austin Riley come back.
I can feel all my arthritis with this cold weather right now in Pennsylvania.
So bad. Dude, just even sitting in this computer chair is just hurting my back. It was a cold day today, too.
Mm-hmm.
It was like 40, 47 and kind of windy.
Ugh, hate it.
Don't like it. All right. So my first bust is Isaac Paredes. His ADP was in the middle of the 13th round at 164th overall. Paredes was being looked at as a sleeper by basically everyone, including myself. sometimes even being drafted in the top 100. So he's on the Astros now, got signed by the Astros. He's basically Alex Bregman's replacement in Houston. And the general thought was that his pull heavy approach would play very well in Houston with the Crawford boxes being only 315 feet into left field. Super easy for righty bats to hit home runs. But so far in 2025, Paredes has the highest strikeout rate of his career at 20.4%. Seems like he's kind of like selling out for power. He's trying to swing out of his shoes. Has a career high exit velocity. In 2022, his exit velocity was 87.4. This season's up to 91 miles an hour. So that's really good to see. Almost, 4% or 4 miles per hour harder than it was 3 years ago. But the thing that's hurting Paredes the most is his line drive percentage at 37.5%. Typically, line drives are great, but that's not why the Astros traded for Paredes. They traded for his 30% fly ball rate, which is down to 25% this year. It's a career low for him. And I know it's early and Paredes could right the ship, but we're banking on a guy that has a career 232 batting average, has only hit 30 plus homers in his career once back in 2023. Last year in 153 games, Paredes hit 19 home runs with a 238 batting average, has really good plate discipline, walking over 10% of the time, basically every season, but his timing is way off. He's striking out 4% more than last year. Paredes could be fine, but I'm not holding my breath while guys like Ben Rice, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, and Josh Smith are kind of rising in the corner infield ranks. So, for Paredes, do you think that you might drop him for any one of those three guys, Ben Rice, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, or Josh Smith?
Kind of Falefa, sure. I mean, we know what he is.
I think that I would actually drop Paredes for Ben Rice. I'm really high on Ben Rice, man. And
I thought it was. Yeah, I took that the opposite way. Yeah.
Oh, you're saying that you would drop Kiner-Falefa for Paredes.
Mm-hmm.
So you would agree that you would drop Paredes for guys like Ben Rice?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
really
I wasn't.
I don't know what
huge on Paredes to start, honestly.
I don't know what Ben Rice's roster percentage is right now, but for anyone listening, if he's available, go out and get him right now. And drop guys like Kiner-Falefa and Isaac Paredes if he is available. All right, man, go ahead and go to your next bust for 2025.
Let's go with your boy, Roki Sasaki. What as a Dodgers fan, I guess what's your true take on Roki Sasaki and his first few starts as a Los Angeles Dodger?
I think he's getting adjusted to the league. The ball is different in Major League Baseball compared to the Nippon
Come on,
Japanese
man.
Baseball League.
Come on, stop.
He's 23 years old. He needs time to get adjusted over here. Just like
baseball.
Yeah.
Come on.
The size of the baseball is different. The seams on the baseball are in different positions. It's a completely different ball that they're used to handling. And pitchers need to have, like, we've seen pitchers get a ball in their hand and it just doesn't feel right. So they throw it away and they wait for the umpire or the catcher to throw them another ball, and then there's even been times when they throw away like 2 or 3 balls. And then the umpire is like, all right, you need to pick a ball already, get the show started. And I don't know. Could be nerves, could be so many different things. He's in a brand new country that he's never been in before. He does have a couple guys on the team that speak the same language. They were on the same team in the World Baseball Classic in Japan last year, which might help a little bit, getting comfortable. But he's still 23 years old. He's not around family. He's not at home. He went home for the Cubs series, which was great, but I think that it's going to take a little while to get adjusted. And I wasn't expecting, this bad of a start for Roki Sasaki, but I also wasn't expecting ace level production yet.
I don't need ace level stuff, but I would love to see more than 3 innings per start on average, for God's sakes. I mean, this guy hasn't given me that. At the same time, he's also 11 walks to 9 strikeouts. This guy was a strikeout king in Japan. That's what he was touted as. He was a Cy Young winner there 3 years, an MVP winner over there last year. So like, I don't want to hear the bullshit, man. Like you're 23 years old. Okay, fine. You're young. I get the pressure thing. I will give you that. But man, he looks so overmatched here, right here. He's got good stuff, but when shit hits the fan, he looks like a deer in headlights. I mean, he was literally crying in the bullpen, the dugout the other day. Baseball, you need to be the strongest, especially as a pitcher, mentally possible. It's a long season, man. And I think, I will say I'm very jealous of Dave Roberts. I think he's one of, if not the best managers in baseball. But they're not trusting this guy and they're not giving him any kind of leash. And that is not good for fantasy baseball for, like you've told me the entire time, if he's only going to be once every 6th day and pitching 3 innings and not producing strikeouts and doesn't look confident. See ya.
Yeah, I think during the draft, I was actively avoiding Roki Sasaki for basically the reason that you just gave, that he's just not going to be able to go deep into games. He's still really young, so they're going to be careful with him. Dodgers have a 6-man rotation. We're not going to see too many starts from Roki Sasaki. I even said that I'll be surprised if he makes more than 20 starts this season. And the short leash, like Dave Roberts, I think he's right about taking Sasaki out so early during all those games. The pitch
What's up,
count
Kevin?
it's getting too high. What's up, Kev? Thanks for joining the show, man. But yeah, I like Roki Sasaki for the future. Maybe towards the end of 2025. But I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket for him early on in the season, but I do love that he has a couple veterans that are going to be guiding him through this process in Yamamoto and Shohei Ohtani. He's on the right team, that's for sure. The right team to be able to right the ship. And
I would actually disagree with that big time. I think he would do a lot better in a small market at this point from what I've seen, with less pressure and smaller city and less expectations, just from what I've seen early.
I think the
Just looks like
Dodgers are so good at developing young pitching. Another team that I would like to see, that I would have liked to see Roki Sasaki go to is the Rays, because the Rays are very good at developing pitching as well. Kevmo says, unfortunately, Dodgers don't care about fantasy. They will handle him with kid gloves, which is a very true story. And I get it, which is why, like I said, I was actively avoiding him in drafts, along with all these other Dodger pitchers that are probably going to be part of 6-man rotation. We just saw 2 guys come up from the minor leagues in Justin Robleski and Landon Knack. Both of those guys came up and made back-to-back starts for the Dodgers to, one, give the Dodgers starters a little bit extra rest, and because Blake Snell just went on the IL. So Ernie Orange is joining the show. What's up, Ernie? He says, yes, I would still hold on to Sasaki. Requires a lot of patience in fantasy. True story, man. So I think for now, you got to hold Sasaki and maybe just don't start him. I feel like in points leagues, you have to start him, but in the categories leagues where he's going to make your whip and the ERA increase, I'd say just hold on to him and hope for the best in the next month or so. I think a couple more starts when he gets a little bit more comfortable. One of the best things about being on the Dodgers for him is that he doesn't have to be the ace. There are 3 other guys that are the ace in Yamamoto, Blake Snell, and Tyler Glasnow. He could be a solid number 4.
Well, all right. So you say hold him and hope for the best. What's the best? Give me his best stat line this season.
End of season, I could see 120 innings.
No, just give me one start. His best start sounds like
His
what?
best start? Best start, I think, is 7 innings, 12 Ks. Yeah. He could do that, especially towards the end of the season. Maybe not towards the end, but like middle of the season, close to the All-Star break, when the weather's warm, he's a little bit more comfortable after he's already made, 6 or 7 starts. maybe even a little bit more than that. I think 7 innings, 12 Ks, maybe one or two walks, and a handful of hits.
I would be color me shocked if he pitches more than 6 1/3 this year.
All right, let's record that right there, and we'll come back to that moment when it actually does happen.
Not this year, but yeah.
All right, man. That was your bust and Roki Sasaki. And we're going to go to my next bust, Wilson Contreras. And there was a lot of hype around Wilson Contreras this season. Before the season started, the Cardinals manager, Oliver Marmol, said that they would use Wilson Contreras as their primary first baseman, which sounded great to fantasy managers. You'd get to roster a first baseman with catcher eligibility. That's a lot more at bats considering first base usually plays every day versus catchers that generally get more days off than any other position player. But Wilson Contreras has not had the best start to the season batting wise. 106 batting average, only 2 extra base hits, 2 walks to 22 strikeouts. By far the worst start to his 10-year career. The bat speed from Contreras looks great. He's in the 93rd percentile, but everything else is terrible. Bottom 10% of the league and basically everything else. I don't think Contreras is going to finish with a 106 batting average, but I would be surprised if he hits higher than like 220. Sean Murphy just returned from the injury, and he'll be the Braves' primary catcher. Keibert Ruiz is looking really good at the start of the season. Carson Kelly just hit for the cycle. So there are some catchers that are available in the waiver wires right now. I think those 3 options, I would drop Contreras for any one of those. So, John, question for you. Between Sean Murphy, Keibert Ruiz, and Carson Kelly, which one would you be looking to add if you were going to drop Wilson Contreras?
Keibert Ruiz. I've liked him for years, and kind of like Mackenzie Gore as a national player. I mean, he just you're waiting for him to really hit that next prospect level that he was touted as. There's a reason he was traded from the Dodgers to Washington in the Trey Turner deal. And that's part of it. They don't just trade someone like that for anybody. And Keibert Ruiz is a stud, and I'm using him specifically because I just remember him just destroying the Phillies earlier, but he's got great power. And I think Wilson Contreras, having that dual eligibility is nice, but if there was anyone, I would consider Keibert.
In a points league, I completely agree with you, but I think because of the lack of power, I'm going Sean Murphy in a categories league. And when it comes to catcher, if you miss at catcher, it's not really that big of a deal. So if I miss on Sean Murphy, I'm not really like too banged up about it. But I do like the power potential from Murphy versus
Sean Murphy before it hits 90 in Atlanta, though. Anything over 90, check out those stats. They're not good.
Yeah, they weren't good in his first season. And I don't know.
Any season, dog, look him up. It's like
we'll see.
150 when it's over 90. He's like, nope, not playing today.
He said that that he was getting dehydrated a lot with the hot weather. So I don't know. Maybe he talks to his trainers and figures out a way to stay hydrated, get that liquid IV, and shake that up, drink that before the games. And I don't know. I think it's too early to tell what kind of player Sean Murphy will be mid-season, but I like the power potential. All right, man. Let's see. Go ahead and give us your next bust candidate.
Last bust candidate. I'm gonna give you Carlos Correa. I'm tired of Carlos Correa. I don't care. I mean, I know he had a nice year last year, and it almost seemed like a resurgence before another injury. And in this guy's career, he's played over 150 games once, and that was 2016. So I'm just tired of Correa, and I think this year he's also coming into what is Correa anymore. Right now, batting 163 and 47 plate appearances, no homers, 2 RBI, 4 walks, 7 strikeouts. What is Carlos Correa anymore? He's 30 years old, always injured. The Mets wouldn't sign him because of that reason. Good for the Mets, but I'm tired of Carlos Correa. I'm done.
Yeah, I've said that a few times, and for some reason, I always end up with Carlos Correa somewhere on one of my teams. This year, I have 5 teams, and he's on one of them. And it's been very disappointing. But the underlying numbers are looking a little bit better than his actual. You mentioned his 149 batting average. He has an expected batting average of 255. Now that's still not great, but it's serviceable as like a middle infield option. The bat speed looks good. He doesn't really strike out a lot. The walks are fine. He's at 8.5%, which is higher than league average. Um, you know, I think that Carlos Correa is just still used to playing in Houston where it's warm all the time. And now he's in Minnesota, one of the coldest states in the country. And I think that in the beginning of the season, he just needs to, you know, wait it out and kind of like wait for the weather to warm up. I feel like I say that for a lot of players, but for a lot of players, it's true, especially a guy that played what was it, 6 or 7 seasons in a dome, and when it's basically 80 to 90 degrees on a daily basis in Houston. So I think if you are a Carlos Correa owner, I would just wait it out, and if there are some trade possibilities, if someone offers you something, if it's worth it, if you have someone else that really believes in Carlos Correa, or if he hits that hot streak, then maybe think about trading him over to whoever wants him for a pitcher in return, or whatever else they can offer you. But I still think that Carlos Correa is not done. He did say before the season was over, or before the season started, I'm sorry, that the plantar fasciitis is behind him now. That is a thing of the past. I don't know. It's really hard to get past that. Do you know how they actually treat plantar fasciitis? Like the only way to actually really get rid of it?
Walking boot.
Well, I've actually had this done. They get like this it looks like a tongue depressor. Like those the little wooden tongue depressors. It looks like that, but it's made out of metal, and they scrape the bottom of your foot. I don't know how hard they do it, but when I had it done to my foot, it felt like they were just digging in there, dude. I lasted a good 6 seconds, and I'm like, "Nope. That's fine. If I have to hobble the rest of my life, I'm not going through that type of pain." Dude, I have 60 hours of tattoo work on my body, and I would rather have another 60 hours of tattoo work instead of getting 6 seconds of that scraper on the bottom of my foot. I will never do that again. No, thank
Yeah,
you.
it's gross. Nah, it's gross.
All right, man. And my last bust candidate is Bryce Miller. Miller is a pitcher that takes a lot of pride in his command. His whip is usually great because of his ability to not give free passes. But something is up with Miller because he's already given up 5 walks in only 11 innings. He has a 10.4% walk rate. And back in 2024, it was only 6.4% and 4.8% in 2023. So slowly rising throughout the years, and then maybe just a big jump this year. Looking at his pitch mix, he seems to be tinkering with his usage. Miller has a lot of pitches in his arsenal, and last year he seemed to kind of find his style. So in 2024, he was 42% fastball, 17% sinker, 17% splitter, mixing in some sweepers and sliders. But in 2025, his fastball usage dropped 13% down to 29.5%. His sinker usage increased 4.5% up to 21.9%. And surprisingly, his knuckle curve usage has increased from 4.5% to 19.1%, which he's getting a lot of whiffs, but it's also getting hit like super hard. Opponent's batting average versus the curve is 364 this year with an average exit velocity of 98.7 miles per hour. And he just keeps on throwing it. I like the effort, but if your curveball isn't good, if you can't at least induce weak contact, maybe you shouldn't be using it as much. I mean, like I said, he's been getting a lot of whiffs on it, but it seems like all of the home runs that he's allowing and a lot of walks that he's allowing is coming off the curveball. His best pitch last season was the splitter. Batting average against was 148 last year, and he was getting a ton of whiffs. Just keep on using the splitter. Like, why are you trying to fix what's not broken? Miller finished with a 2.94 ERA last season, 171 strikeouts and 180 innings. So I can understand why he wants to get more whiffs. He wants to increase his strikeouts, and eventually when he becomes a free agent, if you have a ton of strikeouts as a pitcher, that's how you're going to get paid to pair along with your 2.94 ERA. But this year, with all the changes to his pitch mix, it looks like he's trying to get more whiffs, but it really doesn't seem to be working. And he really should just do himself a favor and just don't fix what ain't broke. The four seam, the sinker, the splitter, while mixing in some breaking pitches was a recipe for success last season. I think you need to bring it back, Bryce. There's no reason to be tinkering when you had a 2.94 ERA last season and you were considered, a top arm in your rotation. Thoughts, John?
Yeah, Bryce Miller, I mean, he's kind of getting lost a little bit right now, and I think, he's not the only one in that Seattle pitching staff that's kind of getting lost a little bit. But hey, it's a long season. I think pitching, especially we've seen him do it before, and pitchers don't just lose it like that. Hitters, sure, can. But with pitchers, you can tell when they're injured, and I'm not seeing that. It just seems like it's a little bit of bad luck. Just from what I'm seeing.
I hope so. I mean, I don't own him in any of my leagues, so I don't really have to worry too much about it. But
he's a good pitcher.
We'll see. Yeah. I think all those Seattle pitchers are really good pitchers. And I don't know. It seems like the Mariners might actually be doing a little fire sale later on this season. All those starting pitchers that are going to become free agents soon. But we'll see. Philly could definitely use at least one of them.
Nah.
You don't think so? With Taijuan Walker as your number 5?
Andrew Painter. See you in June, brother.
Oh, hopefully. All right, guys, we reached the end of the show. Thank everyone for watching. Make sure you hit that likes and subscribe button. We have the QR code in the top left corner now. And thank you for watching the Fantasy War Room. Make sure you tune in Sunday with Ernie Orange and Carlo Baseball as they bring the Power Hour to your screens. And we'll see you guys next week with some more fantasy baseball content. Peace.